starting our acquisition stories, which is the stack. My favorite publisher, not the Italian publisher 505 Games, has bought out Australian puzzle RPG developer Infinity Plus 2. This is quite a small acquisition, isn't it, Sweeney? It's like $4 or $5 million, which is so cheap, really.
It is, and this the reason why I put this at the top of the acquisition stories is because
I know why.
Well, because I'm very familiar with the games from this developer,
Yeah,
and I actually really, really enjoy the work that they do. So they're based in St Kilda in Melbourne, and just like we'll also talk about another Aussie developer from Melbourne next story, but they were previously known as Infinite Interactive, which a lot of people may know as the more well-known name because that was what they developed the Puzzle Quest and Puzzle Quest 2 games under. Whereas essentially they've been Infinity Plus 2 in the era of Gems of War, which is their big current game. But yeah, they're very much known for the puzzle RPG games. My favorite being actually Puzzle Chronicles, which was a not very well-known game that was released in the 360 era, but I actually liked the mechanics of it quite a bit. But yeah, they acquired it for $4.5 million, and a couple of days later, they announced Puzzle Quest 3, which is awesome, but has a caveat. Puzzle Quest and Puzzle Quest 2 are very well regarded, but they're games that you buy, they're standalone. Okay, cool. Gems of War is this huge free-to-play game across consoles and mobile that I sunk, honestly, a lot of money into. And I just couldn't keep up with. They added 23 title updates with achievements to this game. 23 title updates. To the point where there's another one and everyone's just like, oh no, we have to go back to this game again. Because it's a fun game, but at some point you're like, I just want to be done with it. But
Can we just go back to a sec? How much did you actually sink into this game?
I don't know. It's the only free-to-play game.
What's the ballpark?
Ballpark.
I don't know.
It wasn't a free game, obviously. It was absolutely not a free game, clearly.
It was easily the cost of what you'd buy a game for.
For like $100. You sunk $100 into this game.
I don't think it was quite that much, but
was it
like
$98?
Maybe $60 or $80. I probably sunk more, but
60 or 80.
So there's actually
This is Mike with how many versions of Cyberpunk, including a console version that doesn't even work.
But
I've 5. Thank you very much.
But I really liked the game, and I'm like, okay, I want to complete it, and this is going to be the and I was happy to support them because they're Australian. And also, I liked
you guys.
Yeah, and I liked the Puzzle Quest games. There's actually a pretty funny story. There's I don't watch a lot of Rooster Teeth stuff, but there's a guy from Rooster Teeth by the name of Jeff. I think he's one of the founders, and he would always
really have teeth.
He would actually talk about Gems of War all the time, and he's like, "Oh man, I finally finished this game," and then they had an achievement that's named after him. That's like, sorry, Jeff,
really?
Or something like that.
That's awesome. That's a real Aussie sense of humor.
Yeah,
it's
really cool.
I would love to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I reckon this. I don't know how I feel about this, but if we know that Australian game development industry has always struggled quite a bit, and you've got these developers like they've been around since I think about mid-2000s, and not quite as long as the next Aussie developer we'll talk about. They're a bit older, but we know that there's so many businesses that just go under because the industry just isn't great here. So if this helps keep it alive, then I'm all for it. But
yeah, I'm kind of sorry, go.
No, I'm just saying, but I don't know. We'll see how. My hope is that they don't essentially just acquire them and take the IP.
So this is my worry. So my worry is exactly that. It's twofold. And the second thing is, all of a sudden, if most of the Aussie companies or Aussie gaming companies are actually just owned by foreign entities, it's not really. I feel like it's not really that Aussie company anymore. And the orders that they take and where the profits go, I feel like instead, we need more lobbying to get the Australian government to support the gaming component of, and I know we do some of that, but I feel like we don't do enough.
They don't care about. They don't.
I know they don't care about it,
No,
but at least then you keep it.
Mike, just to jump in there, so it's like the opposite. If anything, they actually removed a grant that
ridiculous
Team Cherry used to develop Hollow Knight. So they actually, that was helpful for them. And there's some other games recently as well. It was Untitled Goose game that also had support from the Victorian government to get made. Yep. But they're actually reversing a lot of those things,
That's-
and they're
see, that's
putting it into
ridiculous.
TV and film in Australia,
It's so-
which
look,
to me is the opposite. It doesn't need that at all because some of the big productions are coming here because they get tax breaks.
Exactly.
And honestly, like gaming is so much more interactive. You can have a team like Team Cherry, which nominally is 3 people, make a game that I know you guys don't love, but it is loved by a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and it's a great game. Just
3
'cause we
guys
don't-
making that, you know. So
Yeah. It's an
to
absolute
me, it's very logical
amazing
to
feat.
support that, you know. So
It
but they
is,
don't.
and so this is why I get annoyed. The fact that I'm not so much annoyed at this acquisition or anything like that. I'm just annoyed that these massive international companies come over, gobble up Australian IPs, gobble up Australian companies, instead of us actually investing that money locally, and then you get tax back. You think these companies are going to love paying a hell of a lot of tax in Australia? Probably not. There's all these things that I think are just negative about this whole thing.
I will clarify. I don't know if the Puzzle Quest IP is owned by them. My assumption it is, but I don't know if that is the case. So I just want to make sure that I didn't say that on 100%.
And the last thing I just want to say on it, and I'm not like correcting you, Sweeney, but because I don't think you mean it in the way you're saying it, maybe, but I think the gaming industry in Australia is very good. There's a lot of good people in the industry. It's just not structured very well in a way that supports big studios.
I guess I'm still thinking like 10 to 15 years ago when we had a whole bunch of
Team
studios
Bondi and
closed
stuff.
down. Yeah, but even like Infogrames was here, like Atari set up shop here. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that just probably was never going to work.
Well,
but
to me, this is kind of like closing a studio down in some ways because you're effectively just
it's
now.
not closing
Well,
it down.
no. Look,
they just announced a new game.
What? Hang on a minute. I think the people that get to work on this are of course living in Australia. Great, that's awesome. But there's no difference between this and you working for Amazon US and working remotely from Australia. It's the same shit, right? These they now belong, and everything they do is now governed probably and dictated by a company overseas. It's not really an Australian development studio anymore in that sense.
I think when I mentioned the caveat Puzzle Quest 3 before, I think I forgot to actually completely say the caveat was that it's free to play. And I started going off about Gems of War.
So everyone's very nervous about that game because it's free to play. And
well, if it's anything like Gems of War, then they know it will be well supported. But it's really, we'll see whether or not the design is.
It'd be well supported by the whales, but then the general public may not like it, right?
No, I'm saying well supported because they supported Gems of War updates for years and years and years.
Look, like maybe it's not your take, Sweeney, but my take is like there's a lot of good talent in Australia for game dev.
Oh, that's not what I meant, but
yeah. I just think I think Australia it just would find it very, very difficult to support AAA title development. It has done that in the past, like LA Noire is the example that most people go to, but yeah, I think even with these stories, you get to see a lot more indies in Australia, and I wish the government would support them a lot more because I think there's a lot of folk out there that can make a lot of really cool stuff. And maybe let's get on to the next Aussie acquisition. It's a bit dark.
Yep, the big